Attendees, this is Keith Deinert from Lifespan Technology Recycling. And on behalf of Lifespan and the Oswald companies, we welcome the attendees to this presentation of Are You Covered in the Event of a Data Breach? As the negative impact of data breach continues to skyrocket, Lifespan is seeing more and more customers and prospects inquire about the specifics of our insurance coverage. With that in mind, we decided to sponsor this webinar for you today. The reality is that not all coverage is created equal, so to better help you understand the nuances of applicable insurance coverage for the IT asset retirement marketplace, we have asked our insurance provider, Brian Gingerberg, from the Oswald companies, to provide some insight into the topic. If you should have any comments or questions along the way, feel free to write them in the chat area on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll either address them on the fly or reply back to those attendees after the presentation. At this point, I guess I'll just go ahead and turn the presentation over to Brian. Why don't you go ahead, Brian?
All right. Thanks, Keith. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with everyone today. And we'll make this presentation available afterwards to any attendees that would like to have the slides. Please keep in mind that we tried to keep this kind of at give you the basic tools and information to help you evaluate whether or not the provider you're using and their insurance program will give you the adequate protection that you're looking for, and not only protecting you but also your clients in the process. So again, really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. It's something that I've spent a lot of time on over the past 12 months specifically, and in the foreseeable future here as everything changes in the legislative arena, and as we see more of these breaches occur, you can bet that this will be an ever-changing universe that will require some pretty special attention. So at that point, what's the risk to you and to your customers? I think that the most basic part of this is obviously looking at third-party damages. You're dealing with a lot of customer or client information, and you are looking to have that that information destroyed as you go through the lifespan recycling process. And in doing so, what happens if there's a breach? You've got a lot of unhappy people. They're not quite sure what has happened to their information, who has it, what's going to happen to it now that it's in the wrong hands, and just a lot of uncertainty. And more or less, you're going to end up with a lot of questions and a lot of discussions that need to be had. And by certain regulations now, as I'm sure you're all aware, whether it's the HIPAA and HITECH Act specifically, whether it's the FTC red flag rules, or whether it's really the privacy breach legislation that is appearing in all the states outside of the four that are mentioned there. They're the last four that have not put some sort of legislation in place, and including the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico both would be on the list that have. You've got certain duties that need to be performed in the event of a unauthorized access of information, be it by data breach or some other manner. So it's important to recognize that there's a lot of things that will be coming at you, and collectively you, I mean, your provider, you, and your clients. And the coordination of how that whole event is taken care of is probably one of the more important aspects of it. And that is definitely where the insurance piece of a provider's program comes into play, because it can help quarterback that claim, so to speak, and keep everyone's life easy, and most importantly, take care of the people that need to be taken care of to avoid that third-party damage claim that could be coming at you. The other things that have kind of forced this have been specific association efforts. Until about, I'd say 12 months ago, privacy breach and data breach were two topics that the insurance world specifically kind of had stayed away from. And shame on us, most of the carriers that were doing professional liability policies, because that's where you'll most often see this attached to. sometimes to a cyber liability policy also. We're really looking at this that have really dove in and said, okay, we get this now, we understand what the risk is, and more importantly, we know how to manage it if there is a breach. And I think that's one of the most important things to look at, is what's the process in place if something happens. One, obviously you want to make sure that there's a good plan, a good risk management plan in place, and that's something that's very important. Two, you want to see that the insurance product to back up that risk management plan is in place and is structured the correct way. And then three, if the first two are kind of called into action, we want to make sure that the insurance carrier that we're working with is going to be one that knows what they're doing and doesn't end up hurting it more than helping it. Certain associations have said, we have found, and our membership have told us, this policy or this coverage really isn't available. 12 months ago, I would buy that. Nowadays, not a chance. There are also other associations who are taking it upon themselves to set up specific programs for memberships. That's a very lofty goal, in my opinion. With the way the market changes, the insurance market, and the way the carriers change, and the amount of change in the universe right now, as I said, with legislation and everything else, as soon as that is set up, if they were to get it set up, it could change. And if they don't have the right provider, they haven't matched up with it correctly, their product could essentially be outdated as soon as it goes live, which would be a real detriment to most of the associations. It's also a way for them to kind of force regulation without really being. We're not at a federal mandate yet that says everyone needs to have some sort of privacy breach or data breach coverage. Although I wouldn't say that may be completely out of the question at some point. If certain associations all begin to see their membership base, force them to do it, then of course you've got forced regulation, and you need to have it, or you just can't be part of that association. And that's from a provider standpoint, an asset provider standpoint. What you will see coming, and this has already cleared the House, it's waiting for a Senate approval, and then it'll go on up the ladder, is a new act called the Data Accountability and Trust Act. And what that act does not specifically target any in this industry in general. So it is completely broad act, but says if any business is dealing with personally identifiable information, be it Social Security numbers, be it driver's license numbers, be it bank account or financial information and account numbers, then there are certain duties that need to be taken care of or need to be in place, certain care, i.e. there is a breach, here's what the penalty is for it. And while you can see that the fines will go up to $5 million, I think that the way this will play out is going to be in conjunction with other violations. So, if, God forbid, it is a healthcare-related patient record that's breached, on top of the HIPAA fine, you're also going to see a fine under Data Accountability and Trust Act. So it takes and magnifies all of the potential fines to the persons responsible, organizations responsible for the data being held safely, and multiplies it.